Good morning and good afternoon and good evening. So, welcome to the third quarter virtual town hall. Again, the purpose of the town hall is to update you on certain company information, including our performance and how we are doing, but more importantly, to answer any questions you may have as well. Now, I fully recognize in a large format like this, and when people are distributed around the world, it's hard to ask questions. But nevertheless, I encourage you to ask questions, whatever you may have. All right, let's start with safety. We always do. So this slide, as you see, it talks about why we need to be safe. And I know sometimes we talk about the metrics of safety, right? Our TRIR is this, our lost time incident rate is that, but those are just metrics. The real reason we want to be safe is something more closer to our hearts, right? For some people, I can tell you for me, is my ability, I have young kids, so it's my ability to continue to stay active with them, right? And keep up with them, right? Similarly, for others, there could be a lot of different things. Some of the things what you're seeing is what our employees, they've said why they want to be safe, right? Whether it is pursuing a hobby, like, hiking or music, or playing with grandkids, or enjoying a barbecue with friends. So that is the real reason, why we want to work and play safe, right? So I continue to encourage you on our journey, be committed to that incident-free workplace, because that is the highest level of respect we can provide to our employees and to each other. So, and I encourage you to share. If you go to the HSC Council at apergy.com, you can see some of the videos, what people have posted, including mine, so, and you can see where my son throws the football. There's nobody to catch, so, so again, I encourage you to, go visit it and share your why with others. The more we do, the more, it creates that awareness. Let's move to the next few slides. I want to share and recognize, as part of our purpose of improving lives, what our employees around the world are doing. And there are a number of examples, but I just want to share a few of them with you. And I'm so proud and pleased about how we as an organization and our employees come together and make this as part of our journey, right? So the first one here, what you're seeing is what is an organization called Days for Girls, where, as part of our continuous improvement conference in May of 2019, we had our almost 145 of our associates come together to prepare, hygiene essential kits for young women in Africa. And as you could imagine, there's a lot of young women in Africa who doesn't have access to basic needs. It's really heartbreaking when you think about it, and because of that, they miss in a year over 45 days of school because they just don't have access to these. So our teams came together and we prepared over 1,000 essential hygiene kits for young women. And the very interesting thing about these kids are this kits are that they are reusable. So it is once a young woman receives this kit, they can use it for a long time because they are reusable kits. So I was very pleased, and and it was very emotionally. It's probably, I would say personally for me, it's probably one of the emotionally. I'm passionate and emotional, but this one really was, just amazing. I mean, it was what we as an organization did. The next one here is our team in Utah, the U.S. synthetic team. So 4th year in a row, they were recognized by the state of Utah, the governor of Utah, that as one of the top four companies in volunteering for junior achievement. So this is 4 years in a row. So again, a good shout out to our team in US Synthetic. The next one is our teams in Canada, both Oil Lift and Alberta Oil Tools. And they came together to, in a way, small way, help reduce poverty in Canada. So they work together with the Calgary Drop-In Center to provide, food and, essential medical kits to combat poverty in Canada. Again, thanks a lot to our Canada team. The next one is our finance and IT organization around the world had their meeting here in the Woodlands. But as part of their meeting, they found time to go and volunteer at the Montgomery Food Bank here in Greater Houston area. And what is amazing about this is sometimes we don't realize these things, right? I mean, look at the stat here. There's 12 million children in the United States who live in food insecure household. And think about it in summer, when the schools are out, it makes it even more challenging. So I really appreciate, our teams getting together and going and providing a part of their day in volunteering there. And same with our Windrock team. They partnered with Mission of Hope in Knoxville to do similar activity as well. The next one is, as part of our improving lives of a community is the environmental aspect. So our team at Harbison Fisher in Crawley, Texas, they decided, they're going to go and clean up the environment around, and in the process also drive awareness about, keeping things clean as an environment. So again, these are, what is really amazing is these are not things we say from from corporate saying that, oh, by the way, next month you go and do this, next week you go and do this. These are people coming together on their own and saying, we should be doing that, right? And that is the amazing part of this. And that is the only way we can sustain our purpose of improving lives is, it becomes nature to people to do these things, right? So again, there are a number of examples of these, and so I'm again very pleased to see, we continue to pursue our journey of improving lives. Next, I want to give you a bit of a highlight of our quarter, which is the second quarter, and many of you might have listened to the earnings call or gone to our website to look at the earnings material where there are slides. So I encourage you to do that. If you have time, it always gives you more information. And as you know, investors are an important part of our stakeholder as well. Remember, we talk about improving lives of our customers, employees, the shareholders, and the communities. So this element is, what we do quarterly with the earnings call is with our shareholders, right? So I encourage you to continue to see listen to the call or even look at the slides. I'm not going to read through the slide. There are a lot of numbers here. You can look at it, but let me give you the highlights. So in second quarter, what we saw was sequentially from first quarter to second quarter, our production-oriented product lines. So this will be the artificial lift. This will be our digital products that are used in the production and midstream. We saw those product lines continuing to improve in activity. So they did better Q1 to Q2. So the activity improved. If you recall, when we had the Q1 town hall, we talked about, things are starting slow, but we expect it to continue to improve, right? So we saw that. We saw that continuing to improve. So our production-oriented product lines continue to improve in activity. On the flip side, we always experience in the second quarter a slowing activity in our drilling group, and that is primarily driven by the Canadian. There's a idea of there's a phenomenon called spring thaw, right? Some of you might have heard that. What it is basically, obviously, in Canada, it's being very cold, where these oil fields are. Over the winter, it gets frozen. So it's easy for trucks and, heavy equipment to reach the well sites, right? But what happens in spring when it warms up? It starts thawing and it gets very slushy and muddy. So the access to the well sites are not that available. So you will see for the heavy equipment like drilling rigs and all that to get there. So the activity starts declining, it becomes challenging. And it starts improving as you go into the summer because, the snow has melted, everything is melted, now you get access to that. So that phenomena is called spring thaw. Typically in spring thaw, the drilling activity reduces in Canada. So we saw that, we see it every year. So that was one of the reasons in Q1 to Q2, we'll always see a slight softness in our drilling activity. But this year, because of our customers, particularly the E&P customers in the US, are very, very, focused on living within their means. Let me put it that way. That means they set a capital budget and they want to stick to that capital budget. Because of that, we also saw the US drilling activity slightly decline. So the combined effect of that, we saw in Q2, a little more pronounced decline in our drilling activity. So net Q1 to Q2, we had improvement. So we had our production-oriented product lines improve, our drilling activity, softened, but net, we had a sequential growth in the quarter. Now, our international business is really starting to pick up. Compared to what we saw in 17 and 18, this year we feel there's going to be a lot of strength in our international business. And we are seeing it across all our regions. Our teams in Australia won some really nice orders. Our teams in Middle East have done that, and Colombia as well as in Argentina. So we feel very good. Our international activity this year will be much stronger, and we feel that we'll be able to post almost a double-digit growth in our international business. So that'll be a nice. So this is the strength of having a broader portfolio, right? When one product line is down, the other product line can come in to support to improve that. And we see that across. So all product lines are not having the same type of activity, some higher, some lower, but the strength of the product line gave us an opportunity to sequentially grow. So looking into the second half, the similar story bit continues. So we feel in Q3, the production-oriented product lines will have stable activity, which is again our artificial lift and digital and our international product lines. We feel the drilling-oriented product lines will have somewhat modestly softening activity because we are seeing rig counts in the US continuing to decline. So we have seen, modest decline from end of June to July. The rig counts have slightly dropped, and if the forecast is we are going to see more modest decline in our rig count. So we just have to recognize that we could have some challenges in our drilling-oriented product lines, and we need to stay focused on making sure whatever business we can win, we should win, right? So that's a general situation of our Q2 performance and market. So with respect to our shareholder expectations, I can tell you we gave typically, as you know, that we give a guidance for the next quarter, which means we tell them at the end of every quarter, we always tell them what the next quarter is going to look like, right? So we told them in the end of Q1, for Q2, we said our top line revenue would be between 305 to 315 million. And we said our EBITDA, our earnings, would be somewhere between 72 to 76 million. So that's what we told them. And what we came in at was our revenues came in at 306 million. So on the low end of what we said, but our earnings came in at close to 75 million. So a little bit of a high end of. So the reaction from our shareholders are, wow, this company executed well in a challenging market environment. So again, consistent with improving lives of our shareholders, we are continuing to deliver that. And we have given a guidance again for Q3. So it's a whole another quarter we got to work to, right? And we'll see how, how that progresses, right? So overall, I would say challenging, somewhat challenging market conditions, but we are executing well, against the backdrop of those conditions. So we briefly touched on this market conditions. So what this shows is, look, the rig count, North American rig count may continue to decline a little bit. The completion activity should stay stable, which will drive our production-oriented product lines. And the capital spending in North America by our customers, it's going to be lower compared to what we thought. In the beginning of the year, everybody thought North American capital expenditure may increase about 8%. But today that view has changed. Today, everybody thinks it's going to be declining 6%. So that is the uncertainty in the market. From 6 months ago to now, the market view is changed. So within that uncertainty, we have to stay nimble and agile, right? On the international front, it's been more stable. In the international front, we felt in the beginning of the year that it can increase by 6 to 8%, and that view is still very valid. We are seeing international will increase, the customer spend will increase 6 to 8%. So in that backdrop, we will grow double digits, which is kind of, nice when you can grow above the market, right? So let's move to, amidst all this conditions, how are we doing as a public company? And I'm sure most of you look at our stock price from time to time and see how we are doing. And sometimes when you look at it, it doesn't feel good. Oh, we used to be with a 4 handle, right? At the 45, 42. Oh, now we are down to 32. It doesn't feel good. And I can, I definitely, share that with you, right? But it's a challenging market environment. So what this chart shows is how we as Apergy are doing with respect to the rest of the oil field services and the rest of the peers in our group. So when you look at this chart, the blue line shows how Apergy has been doing, and the orange and the gray line. So the orange line shows what the oil field services as a whole index is doing. And the gray line is showing what our peers, which are people who are in similar lines of business, similar size of like Apergy, how they are performing in the industry. So when you look at that, you can see the differentiated performance, right? So back in May of 2018, when the market was going good, you can see there's a little bit more convergence between the players. Remember, differentiation comes when things get tough, right? When the tide is rising, every boat rises, right? But when the tide walks away, when the tide goes away, what do you see? More rocks, right? So now when the market gets tough, you see the differentiation comes into play. So you can see how our performance has held up relative to rest of them, right? So again, what I wanted to tell everyone is that while we are off from the peak of our stock price performance, but relative to the market, we are still very strong as a performer. So we are performing in the top 10% of all companies in oilfield services. Now that's a lot to be proud of when you think about it, right? I'm talking all the companies which are in oilfield services, right? Now that doesn't happen by accident, right? It's because as an organization, our employees staying focused on the customers, focused on what needs to get done, constantly looking at how do we get efficient, how do we eliminate waste. So all those type of things come into play. So continuing to staying focused on customers, continuing to execute, it's a critical part of why our performance is where we are. And our, again, consistent with our purpose, improving lives of our shareholders are happy about this, right? Our shareholders say, hey, you know what? Amongst all the investments I made in oilfield services, you guys are better than everybody else, right? And that's, and we hear that from them, right? So, but again, we cannot take that for granted, right? So far we have built that credibility of executing every quarter. As a fifth quarter, we have gone through 5 quarters now as a public company, and we have executed on every quarter. So that gives us a bit of credibility, and we have to maintain that continued in the coming quarters as well. So I just want to share with you, look, growth is important across Apergy, right? So when we talk about growth initiative, that doesn't mean these are the only things we do, right? The reason we say growth initiatives is because we see in the marketplace, these 5 opportunities have an ability to grow above market because it is unique to us. Everybody has opportunities to grow, right? In their own markets. Some are growing better than the others, some are not growing. But these 5 growth initiatives, why we call it growth initiatives, because we as Apergy are in a unique situation to grow better in these initiatives. So the first one is driving above market growth in ESP product line. As you know, we have been growing nicely in our ESP product line. And today, we have about 15% market share in the US market. And in 2014, we had less than 5% share in the US market. So we have been growing nicely above market, right? But then when you get to 15%, everybody's starting to take notice, right? Now, who is this company who is growing, right? So our competition is increasing, right? Everybody's starting to take notice, right? So, but we have to continue to keep up that. The second one is around the rod lift conversion. So when you think about rod lift conversion, it's about when wells decline, the customers have to switch from one type of artificial lift to another type of artificial lift. So an analogy would be, right, when you are, well, let me speak for myself. When you are 25, 30 years old, you probably run a mile in, at least in my case, a 7-minute mile, right? But today, I'm running 10-minute miles, right? And I have to change my pace of what I could run, right? Because as I get older, so same concept here, when the wells get older, initial stages of the well, they produce very high volume. As time goes on, it reduces. So you need a different pace of production, different technology, right? And having a full suite of artificial lift helps us be able to use ESP in the first phase of the well. And then as you go down, you can use the, a rod lift. And that's what we mean by rod lift conversion. So because we are one of the largest rod lift players in the world, right? We are well positioned to benefit from it, right? The third thing is the digital portfolio. And we all know, digital is here and it's real, right? And different customers are adopting it in different pace and different ways. And we think we have a set of digital portfolio and technologies that's going to continue to help us grow. And we have been growing really nicely in our digital portfolio. If you look at every year, we have been posting double-digit growth on our digital portfolio. The Diamond Sciences innovation, as you know, we have some of the unique technologies in our diamond cutters, Diamond Sciences, and we think the continued innovation. Today, almost 45% of revenues we generate in our PDC cutters are product lines we introduced in the last 3 years. So it's almost like a technology type company where you're constantly innovating, and customers like those because for them, it improves their productivity. If you can drill faster, if your cost per foot of drilling is going down, that's more money for them, right? So that's an area we feel we can improve. We can continue to have a growth. The last one is our diamond bearings. What we did was we used our Diamond Sciences technology to create, a type of bearings that are used in the downhole applications in oil field. and there is enormous productivity improvement to the customers. What the previous bearings used to last, in any rotating equipment or reciprocating equipment, what are the two main things that fail? It's either the seals or your bearings, right? Those are the failure points typically in any rotating equipment, right? So customers are always interested when you can improve the run life, right? If you can improve the run life. So that's what these bearings do. So we have a unique technology in this, and we think that we have a long runway of growth as well. So these are the 5 growth initiatives. We talk about it in every earnings call. So I encourage you to continue to listen to that. The next thing I want to mention is, we are launching an employee engagement survey this in August, and the survey is going to be open for 2 weeks. Again, this is not a 200 question survey, so it's a short survey, but it's really important because as an organization consistent with our purpose of improving lives, we need to know how we are doing. How we are doing with our employees, how our engagement is, what areas we are doing well, what areas we are not doing well, which areas we have to improve, right? So to me, this is one of the most important things we as an organization do to understand for lack of a better word, let me use the pulse of the organization. How are we doing, right? And like any survey, the effectiveness of the survey is driven by 2 things. Number 1 is participation, right? If 50% of the people participate, that's one set of views. But if 90% of the people participate, then you get a much better view of how things are going, right? So again, these are anonymous surveys, and we don't get to see the details of it. It is all done separately, and what we will see will be a kind of an aggregated type of information, so we can see what we are doing. So again, participation is key, and then transparency. When I say transparency, honest opinions, right? Because remember, whatever you say may also help rest of the people in the organization, because others may hold the same view as well. And sometimes if you feel like, oh, I'm not sure whether it's really true or not, don't worry about it. Say it. Because again, the way the survey is set up is just because one person says, it doesn't become the truth for the organization. But if 50 people say it, then it becomes real, right? Because sometimes, I know personally for me, sometimes you're always wondering, well, maybe I'm the only one who feels that way. No, just say, and it'll sort itself out, whether how many more people are feeling the same way or not, right? So the importance is just say what do you think in each question and what do you feel, right? So again, I appreciate that because this is a very important part of feedback for us as an organization. All right. So as we go into second half, right, I'll leave you with a few things. One, the market environment in the US continues to be, in the North America particularly, continues to be challenging because our customers are very focused on reducing their cost, and you read those in papers. Yeah. So market environment remains challenging, but that's the same environment for everybody. It's not unique to us. But we are continuing to execute well, and we need to stay on that track. And the way to stay on that track is stay focused on our customers, make sure that we are focused on eliminating waste in the organization, focus on the productivity. If constantly question, why do we do this again? Because everything takes time, right? So if we can eliminate certain wasteful activities, we continue to gain productivity, right? And then the third thing is we need to continue to make sure that we are focused on collecting our receivables, because customers tend to push receivables out. We need to stay focused on our cash collections, because as a company, that's important for us, because we got to pay down our debt and keep our organization healthy. So let me stop there, John. I have another 15 or so minutes? Yeah. So I'll open it up for any questions and answers. Yeah.
For the international, excuse me, the international business growth, do we see that happening in new regions or expanding in regions we already exist?
Yeah, great question. So, it's happening mostly in the regions we are in, and partly because that's what we have visibility to, right? Because in international, one of the important things for customers to place orders on you is they need to see local presence and infrastructure and service capabilities, right? So we are seeing it in Australia, we are seeing it in Middle East, we are seeing it in Argentina and Colombia, but we are also seeing it a little bit in places like India. We have a sales presence in India. We don't necessarily have a service presence, and we are seeing more activity, also in places like India, which may, if we see that sustaining, we may put a service facility there to support more.
Yeah, so artificial lift products have performed pretty well in year to date in a tough environment versus some other products in the oil field that have had some difficulty. So does that kind of change your thinking about where Apergy may go next, or how do you kind of think about that?
Yeah. So, as a company, when you look at our product portfolio, the way to think about our product portfolio is in 3 dimensions. One is in a technology perspective, most of our product lines fall in the category of differentiated technology portfolio, right? So when you think about our diamond cutter technology, or some of our digital technologies, or our certain artificial lift technologies we have. The second way to think about our product lines they are not as capital intensive, right? Some products are a little more than the others, but overall not as capital intensive. What does that mean when we say capital intensive? It means a rig manufacturing company will be capital intensive, which means if you have to produce a rig, you have to invest a lot of money up front, right? But if you want to produce, let's say a North Seal valve, right? You probably don't have to invest as much capital to produce it as you would want to produce a rig. So ours is not as capital intensive. We'll talk in the call. Typically, if you see, we say between 5 and 6% of our revenues we use in capital. A capital intensive business can be as much as 10%, right? So those are the second category. The third we talk about it is what phase of the life cycle we are exposed to of the well, right? So when you are in a drilling and completion, what happens? Once the drilling and completion happens, you're done, right? There is no more going back to the well. In some cases, there's some refracking activity, so you may go back to the well. But if you are in production, so a drilling and completion may take 2 months, let's say, but a production cycle happens for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, even 50 years, right? So being more exposed to the production phase of the well is favorable because you get to generate revenues throughout that 20, 30 years of the life cycle of the well. So if you look at our portfolio today, 70% of our portfolio, 75% of our portfolio is exposed to the production phase, which includes our artificial lift and digital. And then we have our drilling technologies, which is a very, very differentiated leading technology in the industry, right? So when you want to invest, right, we will invest in every one of the businesses we own, right? But if you are going to add significantly more product lines, right, we will slant more towards the production side of things because we get to generate more revenues throughout the life cycle of the well. Again, we'll invest in every product line, but if you are going to go acquire another product line, we would give more preference to product lines which are in the production side of the business because it just makes sense for us to keep generating revenues throughout the life of the well. Good question. Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry. We have a question on the phone. So this says, how is Apergy's marketing team thinking of merging and supporting all of their companies on their Apergy.com website? Some of the Apergy brands have their own website and these are outdated.
Yeah, good question. Good question. It's sometimes I feel like it's like solving world hunger, you know. It's because we have so many brands, and you know, as a company, look, it's important. The brands are extremely important to us, right? Because the reason the brands are important is that's what customers trust, right? They don't tell me, oh, I use Apergy rods, right? They tell me they use Norris rods, right? Or they tell me the best pump in the oil patch is a Harbison Fisher pump. They don't say it's an Apergy pump, right? So brand equity is extremely important if it is a good one, right? So you really want to make sure the brands which are trusted by the customers, right? We continue to maintain that. So let me say that first. We will continue to maintain those brands which are trusted by our customers. Now, with respect to how efficiently we use them, how efficiently we support them, I think we can do a much better job of it. And this I go back to our history of how we have grown up as an organization. As an organization, we have grown up as individual product lines. That's how we grew up, right? If you look at Apergy, it's all been individual product lines we grew up. So we continue to do it what's right for our own product lines. And that's okay. But now that we are Apergy, I think in order to be more efficient, in order to support more, I think we will make efforts to bring, and leverage our marketing, more and more, right? So which means it doesn't mean we'll move away from brands. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that how we coordinate the marketing messages, how we coordinate the, the efficiency of that, we will try to do, more and more in a collaborative manner. And I think we can do that. I mean, we have examples of doing that, right? In other areas. So we can do that, right? But I do want to make sure that people understand our brands are critical to us. Yeah, there's one more.
Selma, we have one online question. How are you thinking about acquisitions and additions to the portfolio?
Yeah. So if you look at our priorities we have laid out, which we call it the capital allocation priorities. So our plan initial periods of Apergy is to support our organic growth initiatives and then also pay down our debt, right? We took on $700 million of debt as part of the spin, but we have been very nicely paying down, and we have so far paid down $95 million in the first year, right? And that's very important for us because just to give you an idea, roughly we've been spending $45 million in interest expense. Just like our house, right? When you have a mortgage, you pay the interest. It's nice to own the house free and clear, right? So because that $45 million, we can use, if we don't have to pay us interest, we can use for a lot of other purposes, right? So we'll continue to pay down that. Now, doesn't mean debt is necessarily all bad, right? Suppose if you have use for that money to generate better growth, right? We should use that. So when we look at acquisitions, which, the next set of acquisitions in the near term for us will be mostly small add-on technology acquisitions, right? Or a geographic acquisition, right? An example of that is, if you recall what we did in Argentina, we acquired the business called PCP Oil Tools, right? So that business for us provided an entry point into Argentina. And today we are participating in a lot more tenders in Argentina than we did. So these are acquisitions which are less than $25–50 million. So we'll continue to look at those type of acquisitions in the near term, whether it adds a technology to us, and in the recently we said we are going to acquire a small technology company to add to our digital capabilities in artificial lift, and we did that, and I welcome those employees. So we did that, right? So the acquisitions will be very focused on adding on more capabilities to our existing portfolio, right? And they will be small because we have priority to pay down debt. So it'll be small, but it'll be very, very important to our portfolio.
In the digital growth space, where do you see the biggest opportunity for us? So what are we targeting, services or more of a product based? Or
yeah, great question. The digital world in oil field in particular is evolving, right? So today, most of the digital emphasis in oil field continues to stay around more innovative hardware, right? As well as prediction softwares like failure prediction, productivity oriented type software. So today that tends to be what the customer is really looking for, right? But it also, digital is always an evolution, right? But we do see over a period of time, the customers may more evolve towards what I would call it more outcome-based services, which is, look, I'm not sure why I should be buying more the hardware, right? Maybe I pay for more uptime. Maybe I pay for the productivity of what I am getting, right? So right now the growth is a lot in the hardware. Customers want very cost-effective hardware, and then they want insights and failure prediction is what the area we are seeing a lot more of. Okay, very good. Well, again, look, let me give you some parting thoughts. I think the first year as a company, it's been a really a very, very positive, successful year as a company, and the whole reason for that is what we as employees, as an organization, we came together and executed on a very, very successful spin. We are continuing our journey as a purpose-driven organization, and we will continue to stay committed to that. So I really thank all of the employees for their passion around it, right? And we see evidence of it over and over, right? We had a good second quarter, and the market conditions, remain somewhat challenging, but we need to remain focused on what we need to get done, right? Which is staying focused on customers and executing on the opportunities we have in front of us, right? So again, I thank you all for your continued efforts, and don't forget the employee engagement survey. Make sure you participate, and we'll talk to you again in a quarter's time.